everyone, and welcome to Treehouse. Sorry for the delay. We're just a few minutes late today. You silly kittens wouldn't wake up. Just kidding. We had some technical issues. My name is Shannon. I'm the Volunteer and Community Engagement Coordinator here at Treehouse, and we are super excited today to actually be here at the shelter. We are beginning to slowly resume on-site operations, and you can check out all those details on our website, treehouseanimals.org. Today, we are going to be meeting with Caroline, who is on our shelter operations team as well as our community cats team. And Caroline's going to be talking about what to do if you find kittens outdoors. Here in Chicago, we are in the swing of kitten season right now, full swing. So it's not uncommon at all for us to receive calls from people in the community who have found a kitten or a litter of kittens outdoors and want to know how best to help them. What to do kind of depends on a variety of factors. So Caroline is going to go through that information today. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment and we will address them as they come. We also have two other special guests with us today, and that would be Blinken and Moon. So without further ado, let's introduce Caroline and the kitties.
Hello. Thanks for joining us here. This is Moon, who's taking this opportunity to take a bath. Kitties have the best time with Moon. Moon is our fluffy little gray friend right here. And and back here in the little black kitten in the corner with Blinken. They also have siblings, Blinken and Dot. But they're still recovering from their skin. These kittens are still a little groggy from their surgeries, but they've been gracious enough to allow us to pet them and visit them as they come back to their local homes. So I work on the community cats team here at Treehouse, which means that part of my job is talking to and working with all of the different folks who work with Treehouse to help cats who are living outside. It is not uncommon at all for us to get pretty frantic communications when folks find kittens. It can be a pretty panic-inducing event because everyone just wants the best for them and wants to take care of them however possible. But the most important thing to do when you find kittens is not to panic. It can be hard, but the most important thing really is don't panic when you find them outside. Kittens are going outside all the time. And what you want to do is also look around and see how dangerous or safe the situation is. You don't want to immediately swoop in and scoop them up, even though that might be your first instinct, because mom cat is often still around. Mama cat will frequently keep her litter of kittens in a bush, under a deck, in a shed, somewhere that's a bit more secure than out in the open. And these kittens are going to be there when she's out hunting. She needs to hunt to keep up her strength so that she can nurse them. And it's pretty common for folks to find young or newborn kittens and sort of mistakenly scoop them up to help them when mom was actually just out finding a snack. So it's really crucial to give mom 2 to 3 hours, if not 4, and see if she comes back. So if they are in a secure location, reasonably secure, we understand they are outside, but as long as they're not in the road or in a immediately dangerous location, the best thing you can do for the first 3 to 4 hours is actually to step back and observe. Frequently, if you give them 20 yards or so, you will see mama cat slinking back in, and then you know that she's still caring for those kittens. And so that's very important. When they are less than a month old, we really, really want them to stay with mom if at all possible. She is, in fact, the best equipped to care for them. They need 24-hour care, which if you've ever been a bottle baby foster, you know that means feeding every 2 hours all night. mama's milk has antibodies and other nutrients that are important for them to fight off infection and illness when they're so little and fragile. Mama has to stimulate them to use the restroom, which would have to be taken over by a human if they were to be taken into care. So for all of these reasons, mom is really the perfect one for the job. So we want to do everything we can to make sure that we're not, as we jokingly call it, stealing mama's babies. We want to make sure that, if we are going to take them into fostering when they are really little, that mom really, for whatever reason, is not around. So 3 to 4 hours is a good amount of time.
Where are you going, Moon? Where are you going? And Moon actually gave us a good break. We are going to try to fix some technical issues in 1 second. So Moon, you hang in there.
No, little mouse. No, little mouse. You don't like my echoing voice.
Alrighty, and if you all can let us know in the comments if you can hear us better now. We work to fix the sound issues.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Oh, I'm going back for a nap. I'm done with you.
Moon has no tolerance for sound issues.
Yeah. Yeah, you. You're like only the best technical quality for my debut.
Excellent, and it looks like we are in much better condition. Thank you for letting us know.
Excellent.
Super apologize for if you didn't get the best information there because you couldn't hear well. Caroline, I know you just said a lot of good stuff. Can you kind of recap?
Recap it? Absolutely.
Yes.
And if folks have more specific questions, they can throw them in the comments.
Yes.
But the short of what I was talking about was that when you find kittens, you want to make sure that mom isn't still caring for them. Because when they are less than a month old, we want to make sure that we do everything possible to allow them to stay with their mom. Mom is the best equipped to care for them. She is still producing milk with antibodies that are important. She, is the best one for the job. And so if she's still around and likely out hunting, because she's got to find food too, we want to make sure we're giving a good 3 to 4 hours of observation to see if she comes back for the kittens. Provided they're not, in a road or in some other immediately dangerous situation, we want to observe and see what happens. We also want to observe from a distance because mom can be pretty protective of her babies. She might be a feral or unsocial cat who lives outside. That's pretty common. And she might be suspicious of humans. And so, you really want to give a good 20 yards distance and observe and check back throughout the day. And it can be tricky to figure out if mom has been around, but you do your best to see if you've seen her. Hi, where do you think you're going? We've got Moon is thinking about going on a jaunt. And so under 4 weeks, under a month, the best place is with mom. If you determine that mom isn't around and they are that little, that's when it gets a little more intense. Kittens who are less than 1 month old are referred to as bottle babies or neonates. And this is because they quite literally have to be bottle fed if they're not going to be with their mom. And that is if you've ever been a bottle baby foster, a pretty intense undertaking. It's a lot of work, anywhere from every 2 hours for 24 hours a day. They need to be bottle fed. It's important to note that you never want to give a cat cow's milk. So if you find a kitten or you've taken in a kitten, it's important to get what's called milk replacement formula. One of the common brand names is KMR, or Breeder's Edge is another one. Those formulas are the substitute if they're not going to be nursing on mom when they're so little that they're not ready to eat wet food yet. And even there are cat milk products that are intended as like a treat for old, adult cats. You want to be careful that you're not substituting that cat milk product as understandably thinking that it is the same as mom's milk. So you're looking for milk replacement formula. And that can be bought at Petco or Chewy or what have you. All of those pet stores are going to have it.
Caroline,
yeah, go for
it looks like we have a question here from William.
Oh yeah, I see that right there. What about giving food to the mom?
Yeah, so if the mom was still with the babies, William's asking, what about helping by giving her food?
That's a great question and a great idea. It is great if we can support mom by giving her food. Wet food in particular is a really good nutritional quality for mom. The thing you want to be careful not to do is you don't want to feed her where she's keeping her kittens. It seems a little counterintuitive when you want, breakfast in bed, so to speak, if you had 6 kittens to feed. But mom is very aware of the dangers that her kittens face out in the wild. And so she is very careful not to bring any food close to the kittens because it could attract predators. So you don't want to provide, wet or dry food to mom wherever she's got the nest, so to speak, of kittens. But it is great to provide it to her. So that kind of puts you in the position of finding a location that is a little ways away from the kittens, but that mom is still gonna know it and see it. If you are familiar with feeding community cats, particularly in Chicago, you know that the name of the game is called meal feeding. What this means is that you are, on a schedule and you're putting food down for half an hour to an hour at most, and then you're picking up any food that wasn't eaten. You're not really allowing that grazing behavior that cats in a home might have with dry or wet food, because if you leave wet food out in your yard and the cat doesn't eat it all, you will probably soon have other furry friends, raccoons, skunks, possums, rats. You're going to bring in anyone else is going to come to the buffet. So you want to make sure that you are doing the meal feeding for mom too. And the rule of thumb with nursing queens, that's what mom cats who are nursing are called, is that as much food as they can eat, they can have. So, you can get the, really good wet food. There's some products that are geared for nursing moms, are called like mom and baby cat or something along those lines. And those are some really rich nutritionally strong. Where are you going? Sorry, folks. You can see my cat instincts. I felt a movement. Hi, Moon. So that's a great question. If you can support mom regularly with food, that will in fact allow her to not need to leave the babies quite as often when they are smaller. She may still go out because, she's going to hunt and check the territory and things. But being able to provide her, what are you doing? That food is a great instinct and an awesome question. So thank you. Hi. Oh, you might be falling asleep. Well, what do you think you're doing? Hi. Hello. So perhaps we'll talk a little bit about kitten aging, because that is clearly an important factor in what you're going to do when you find those kittens. What I usually tell folks is that less than a month is going to be characterized by not looking so much like a small cat as a pile of really cute hamsters. That is my unofficial take on if you're finding kittens and their eyes are closed, their ears are kind of folded down, not like these big, gorgeous, upright ears we've got going. Let me show that off. If they're folded down, those eyes are closed. If the kittens are all in a pile, if you find a pile of kittens, there's a good chance that they're less than a month old. They're going to be snuggling for warmth. If they're not really moving around, those are all signs that they are less than a month old. Hi, where do you think you're going? So the reason that we use between 4 and 6 weeks as our benchmark for when it is possible to care for kittens more easily without mom is because we're looking for them to be weaned. So that doesn't mean that if given the opportunity, they're not going to nurse, because cats, even once they are getting older, if they're still with mom, they're still going to go to the milk buffet. They're going to do it. They're going to do it less often when they're eating, wet food and, potentially dry food on their own. But they are still going to nurse. So being weaned really means that they are capable of eating enough wet food on their own to supply their nutritional needs. It doesn't mean that they're entirely off of nursing, but they could be. And that's where that age distinction becomes important, because if you find kittens that are 4 to 5 weeks old, you're going to see little fluffy cats, but they don't look quite full grown. The body proportions are still more baby-like. They don't even look quite as old as these ones. They just look like little fluff balls. But the ears are going to be more perked up. The eyes are going to be open, but they're going to be blue. All of their eyes, kittens' eyes are blue until they reach, I believe it's about 7 weeks that they start changing color, although it varies, and they'll go to whatever their true color is. So when they are 4 to 5 weeks old, they're going to be moving around, but they're not super steady. But what you can always do, one of the tricks that I've had recommended by our vet is try offering them some wet food. Water it down a little bit and offer it to them and see if they'll eat it. And that's a sure clue as to whether or not they're well into the process of weaning. Sometimes we are in the position of trying to figure out how weaned cats are, because we need to figure out what kind of foster home is the best fit for them, and whether or not they are able to eat some of that wet food is a big factor. So if mom doesn't come back and they are less than 4 weeks old, that's when you have to start figuring out what the plan's going to be. Are you capable of fostering? That's great. If you are and you're, willing to learn and able to do so, you could reach out to a shelter like us, for example, and have them get you started with bottle baby care. So we have bottle baby kits here at Treehouse that we can give out to the public with some educational materials when folks find those young kittens and are able to foster, including some of that KMR powder, a bottle with one of the nibbles on it that helps the kittens nurse from the bottle. Hi, where are you going? Hi. Would you like to, how about just here for a second? Okay, that's fine. So we are able to provide those educational materials. And so if you are able and game to foster bottle babies, that's a great option if mom doesn't come back. However, it's very understandable if you're not. It's a lot of work and it's a big undertaking. And so reaching out to various shelters to see if folks have fosters available is another option. If they are, truly little, they're in a dangerous situation and you can't find a foster, it is okay to surrender them to a shelter like Animal Control or Anti-Cruelty, one of the open admission shelters. We always talk about how we don't want little kittens in shelters because they are susceptible to illness and they need round-the-clock care. But the open admission shelters in Chicago are really great about partnering with all the other rescues and shelters to get those kittens out into foster homes as fast as possible. They're really excellent about that. And in the times I've been down to Animal Control, I've seen the little kittens, they fly right out of there. So all the great rescues and shelters around Chicago work together. So it is, understandably, it's a thing that people are very nervous about. They say, I don't want to take them to Animal Control. But, it is an option and it's a viable option. Folks will do their best by the cats as best I can. So that is something that I always like to explain to folks, is that there are a lot of connections available from those setups. So if you're not able to figure out the foster connection yourself, it is okay to use those open admission shelters that are available to you. Would you like to say hello, Moon? Moon's like, I don't know. I didn't know about this. Maybe I want to go back in here. Hi. Yeah. It's like, now I'm gonna go back and snuggle with my sibling back here. Hi. Hello. So when they are older than 4 to 5 weeks, sometimes mom's not going to bring her kittens out until they're 4 to 5 weeks old. She'll, keep them wherever she's got her nest, and then all of a sudden you will have a month ago seen a pregnant mom cat around, and then she'll disappear, and a month later out of the bushes will run mom and a bunch of little fluffers after her, and it's very cute. And that's when you want to start seeing if you can start working with them, sitting outside while you feed, getting them on a feeding schedule, seeing if the kittens will slowly approach you if you sit on the ground perhaps and let them come closer while they're feeding. Food is really the way to the bonding heart of kittens and cats. So you want to do what you can to use the offer of food to allow you to work on, giving gentle head pets while they're eating is a good way to sort of get started. You can even take one of the, I think it's called a cat charmer, the wand toy that has the fleece strip on the end, and if you roll it around and use it just as a very soft little stick, you can, from a distance, that's one of the socialization tricks, is to kind of do those pets with that option. We've also had cats whose favorite little thing is a back scratcher. You just do little scritches. And so working on the socialization, if you're able to, is important. Because we are looking to bring them into the shelter environment at anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks or older. So it's always best if they can be more social when they get to us, because the more social they are, the less stressed they're going to be in a new environment and with all the contact we're going to have with them. And the less stressed they are, the less likely they are to get sick. Stress is the biggest risk. Oh, I'm like in the crook of my elbow here. You gonna come home with me? Stress is the biggest risk to cats' health in the shelter environment. It puts them significantly at risk for developing infections. And so if they're more social before they come into the shelter, then they're going to be at less risk for infection, even if we're just sending them out to a foster home. The more social before they come inside, less stress, less health risk. So that's, important. But sometimes by the time mom brings them out, they're not getting anywhere near you, but they're still young enough to be socialized. So that's when it might be luring them into a carrier with some food and then sneaking the door shut. I, as part of the community cats team, have been out doing some kitten and mama cat trapping. So sometimes kitten trapping is just picking up kittens and putting them in the carrier and then setting a trap next to it and sort of using the kittens as bait at the back, placing that carrier at the back of the trap and covering it so it looks like a long tunnel to the kittens. And mom will frequently, we had a success like this yesterday. Mom went right in because she wanted to get to her kittens, and we were able to trap mom too. So trapping kittens once they're getting to 6+ weeks old is an option. There are also special kitten traps that are tinier and trigger a little easier. We use the True Catch traps at Treehouse, which are great because they're quite safe. So even if the kitten's doesn't weigh enough to trigger it, it's not going to pose any threat to them. So trapping is an option. Oh no, we don't do this. No, excuse me, no. If you've come across kittens in genital suckling, it can be a big health risk. So we're not gonna lick our sibling after surgery. So those older kittens, once they're outside, you can look to trapping, and we can advise on that. And then, there's also the Draught Trap, which is pretty much what it sounds like. It's a cartoon-like setup where you kind of prop the Draught Trap up, and so that when mom and kittens are under it, and then you pull the string and it whoops down right on them, and catches them in this little enclosure, and then you transfer them into traps. It's very much a cartoon situation, and that can be really helpful for catching mom and kittens, because then they don't need to all follow into the trap. You can just, when mom is there and they're all around her, you can get them all at once. So when they're older, those are some of the options for getting them, and then you can look to take them into various shelters. Once they're 5 to 6 weeks old, the shelter is a much less scary environment as far as their immune systems, because they've had that time to grow and work on their immunity. So you can look to intake through Treehouse. If you're a colony caretaker, you can look to the open admission shelters in the city or any of the other shelters or rescues. Kittens are usually pretty easy to adopt out because they're really cute. So it's, unless you catch the community at a really packed season, finding foster homes and such for kittens is usually pretty feasible. So really it just takes some, reaching out and seeing what the different resources are available. You had a question right there?
Yeah, it looks like Elena asks, can you talk about how you would know if the place the kittens are outdoors is safe?
That's a great question. Hi. So it's a little tricky because, of course, the outdoors is never totally safe. And that is often why folks are anxious when they find kittens outdoors, because they do understand that there are always inherent risks of predators or weathers or accidents. What you're looking for is a place where the kittens are reasonably secure. So they're not completely out in the open somewhere where they're going to be easily subject to pedestrians, traffic, bicycles, folks walking their dogs, as long as they are a bit to the side and they seem to be kind of in a secured location. If they are wandering, they're probably a little bit older, and so you don't have to worry quite as much about whether mom is coming back. But if they're wandering, what you can do is get a cardboard box and put a towel in it, and you can put the kittens in it and then put that very close to where you found them, but just out of the way. So for instance, if you found the kitten like out on the sidewalk, for instance, you would, even if it were a single kitten, you would find, even a little shoebox or something, and you would put the kitten in it and place it just under the bushes as close to where you found the kitten as possible, because that's the closest place that mom would be likely to keep them, and it just keeps them, out of the sun or out of the weather, and that allows you to keep an eye on them. If you're finding a single kitten whose eyes are closed and ears are down, it's best to really look around and see if you can find the rest of the siblings. And in that situation, you could put the shoebox with like a hot water bottle that's covered always with like a cloth and enough room for the kitten to move off it if it gets too hot, just to help the kitten keep and regulate temperature in those few hours while you're watching to see if mom's coming back. But mostly you're looking for, mostly you're looking for imminent threats to their well-being, and that's usually going to be them being exposed or at risk for automobiles are a big one. Sometimes wildlife is the tricky one to assess because it really, you're just going forward. It really depends where you are. If you're somewhere where your backyard borders on woods and you find them at night, and you have local coyotes that this is not what we do, that you traipse through your yard all the time, you want to see if you're able to put them in a secure location like the one mom would choose for a nest. So you want to kind of think like you're a mama cat, and say, okay, well, a mama cat might go in this part of my shed that's open, and put a little box and the kittens in there so that mom can find them. If you think that mom's got them in a location that's exposed to predators are there. It's best to try not to come up with every possible danger, because being outside is inherently dangerous. And so trying to think of, well, how truly risky is it in the next 3 to 4 hours? If I'm going to leave them in this situation, how can I make it secure without really disturbing them or making mom, wary about coming back? You don't want to scare her off. How can I evaluate how safe their location is for those next few hours? Hi. Yeah. Hi, Moon. Hi, you troublemaker? Yes.
That's good information.
Right.
It looks like Susan would like to know, how do you know if the tiny kittens are healthy?
That's a great question. So when they're super tiny, the signs that you would be looking for health, at least what we can assess easily, is going to be if you've just found them. Let's assume that you're not actively caring for them in your home. If you've just found them, look at those eyes. A cat's eyes are like both the window to the soul and the window to the, is this cat suffering from an infection? Oh my gosh, your sibling is not catnip to you. You're looking for colored or thick eye discharge. Pretty much anything kind of nasty going on with the eyes. Yellow, green, those are always our warning signs with eye discharge. If they're goopy, if they're crusted, closed, you want to make sure you're not mistaking those eye issues for the eyes haven't opened yet. But you're looking for that kind of colored yellow, green discharge. I actually found some kittens yesterday when we were out trapping, and it's pretty clear. You look at them and you're like, oh, that is a whole bunch of yellow goop. Probably not good. We should get some treatment going on. That's going to be one of your big signs. Also, sneezing, coughing, if you're able to observe those things. When you're just finding them outdoors, it's going to be tough to evaluate, like, are they eating? Are they, when stimulated, using the restroom? Those would be things you'd be evaluating more once, if you have to take them inside. If the mom cat allows you to handle the kittens, if she is around, but she's going to let you handle the kittens, you can check their weight. If you can get a kitchen scale, it's roughly a pound a month when kittens are little. And so, ensuring that they're gaining and taking a look at them in that respect. But it is definitely tricky. You kind of have to go with your gut a little bit. But what you can also do, and what I always recommend folks do, is take pictures. We've all got cell phones, out in the world. Take some pictures of what's going on. If you can get us a shot of the whole kitten with something for scale, and a shot of the face or the eye, with the eyes, that allows our staff to tell a lot. We can't always guarantee, like, that cat's 100% healthy based on a photo, but we can say, oh, wow, yeah, that doesn't look great. That's a cause for concern. We should, that cat needs to be seen now and can't wait. Or that cat, looks pretty normal and seems to be healthy and responsive and doing well. Kittens are not able to regulate their temperature until about 3 weeks. And so that's the other thing you're looking for. You never want a cold kitten. Kittens should always feel warm to the touch. And you want to, if you find cool or cold kittens, you want to warm them slowly. That's very important. You want to warm them slowly. You can take a sock and fill it with rice and heat it in the microwave, and place them near it. You want to warm them slowly, and you do not want to feed them until they are warm. If you feed a cold kitten, it just makes matters worse. Their body can't digest food when it's cold. It's too busy worrying about why it's cold. So you want to do your best to warm if they feel cool to the touch, and get them up to temperature. That would be one of the situations where if you came across kittens and they were cool, you would want to act immediately, and then see if mom was maybe around. Hi, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah, you feel warm. There's a reason we talk about warm, purry kittens. They're just a little warmer than us. Hi. Hello. Yeah. So
Caroline, if they find that the kitten is ill, whether the kitten has like some eye goop or looks underweight, what kind of resources do they have?
Yeah, it gets kind of tricky at that point. You are in the position of reaching out to different shelters and seeing who has the capacity, whether it is in fosters, to assist you. Sometimes we're able to say, yeah, bring the kitten in. We can't guarantee admission or, vet treatment, but what we can do is we can take a look at them with you. We can show you how to bottle feed them. We can, take the temperature, put them on a scale, and guide you through what the care would be overnight. That is something we always call first and talk and make sure someone's going to be here. We don't want you to show up at the door of the kitten when no one's here or expecting you. But those are going to be some of the things you can do. You can also, if you feel that the kitten is in severe illness and distress, such that it's not a viable option to keep the kitten outside regardless of age, that's when you're going to be looking to your open admission shelters, your animal control, your anti-cruelty, because they have intake just about every day, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what their hours are at the moment, so don't hold me to that. But the open admission shelters, that's what they're there for. They're open admission. They have medical staff. We here schedule our intakes because we're a small shelter, so we, can't accommodate every person who walks in the door, because then we wouldn't be able to do the spay neuter surgeries because our clinic has to be doing those. And if someone shows up, then we don't have that kind of staffing here. And so those shelters are really great because they're able to provide that immediate assessment, beginning treatment, and then transfer to other shelters like Treehouse, other rescues, other groups, and foster organizations. They can transfer them out, but it serves as a really good central kind of processing center. So if you found kittens that you were not able to care for, you were pretty sure they were quite sick, you didn't feel you could care for them and take them to your own private vet for whatever reason, reaching out and give them a heads up you're coming in, and the earlier you can get them there in the day, the better. Because of overnight kitten care, they often have to try to get the kittens out by the time they're closing for the night. So if you're able to overnight the kitten on your own and bring them in the next morning, give them as much of a business day to find a placement for the cat. That would be what I would recommend.
Awesome.
Moon is very enamored with Lincoln. Hi, are you purring?
And you talked a little bit about socializing the kittens.
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain why we focus on socialization? Is there a point where you're no longer able to socialize the kitten? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So socialization is a big topic in community cats and in sheltering because of what I mentioned earlier with stress and illness. We're looking for every cat thrives, and so we want to make sure that a cat is being kept in its best environment for it to thrive. So for a social cat, that might be indoors, being pampered and, having a cute little bed and a scratcher post. But for a cat that's not social, that's really a wild animal. And so while we can provide the spay neuter, vaccination, we can feed them, we can try to support their lives outdoors, it's not considered humane to house them inside. If you've ever, mistakenly ended up with a feral cat in your garage, they climb the walls. They truly are. It's a wild animal, and so and so we want to be sure that we're making the best choice for every cat's well-being, and stress level is a big part of that. So the socialization window, as we call it, is from birth to about 12 weeks. It's tough. It's not a hard line, but from 12 weeks, it becomes increasingly more difficult to socialize a cat to humans. They might be social to one human, but socialization really is about being social with humans in general, seeking out human attention, enjoying human affection, not just being terrified and accepting it. Just because you can handle them if they're terrified, that's not necessarily an indicator of socialness. And so, like any creature, kittens have to learn that humans are safe and part of their caregiving team. And so when around 4 weeks is what I've been reading lately, is when they recommend starting to try to handle kittens. You've got to be pretty careful if mom cat's around outside and she's not into humans, because you don't want to, spook her and have her move the nest, because mom might say, oh no, that human's been touching my kittens and I don't like that, that's dangerous. I'm gonna move my nest next door into the, the attic next door or the garage next door because it'll be safe there. But, the more you're able to handle them, spend time with them, talk to them, give them pets, lure them with food, all of those sorts of things, help them learn to trust humans, to play with humans, and that then they're able to be adoptable. So if you're finding an armpit cat, if you're finding a cat outside that doesn't want to be touched, and it seems like it's more like 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 12 weeks, that's a cat who might have a better experience outside. So it's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of folks, but the idea is socialization is always an option in the future. You can keep working with them outside. If they become social down the line, great, they can go for intake. That's awesome. And I've known many colony caretakers who've spent a lot of time outdoors working with, on the move, working with cats to help them, oh, you're not trusting me right now, to help them learn to trust humans, and then they can become adoptable. But by about 12 weeks, it becomes increasingly stressful for the cat to be brought inside for socialization. It's all about where it's happening. By 12 weeks, their environment is outside. It's what they know. And so if you take them from it, they become very stressed. And that's a lot of potential for illness, and that's a lot of trauma. Whereas if you can work with them in their environment outside at that point, you'll be a lot more successful and it'll be less stressful for them. When they're less than 12 weeks old, they're still growing and learning, and they're still in that socialization window. And so bringing them inside and providing that more intensive socialization process is frequently very effective. But I've certainly seen it done with older kittens, and it takes a lot of time, and they'll often go through a couple upper respiratory infections in the process because they get stressed. And it's important as a shelter for us to think about where is the best use of our resources to meet our mission. And so if they are in a situation where they can be cared for outside, they've got someone to feed them, they're happy and thriving, maybe that is the more humane option, and that frees up another foster home that might, with those cats, be occupied for 3 or 4 months socializing them, because maybe we feel that they should be inside when it's, maybe less about what is gonna help them. Excuse you. Can you not bite my fingers? It was right next to the mouse. So that's, kind of what socialization is about. It's pretty tricky. And there are a lot of different factors in terms of age, their experience, the environment they have to return to, and a lot of human feelings are involved. And so that part gets really tricky. We care so much about the cats. We love them so much that it can be tricky to take a step back and say, okay, is this cat actually okay outside? I know it looks like a little kitten, and I would love for it to have this fuzzy dream home that I imagine being perfect, but maybe that's actually going to be more stressful in the long run. So that's a lot of kittens and community cats, is figuring out with those young adult cats what exactly is the choice. And it can be a spectrum, and it's definitely a conversation that multiple people have to try to figure out for each cat what is that best choice. Hi, are you waking up? Hi. Yeah, you're cute.
And speaking of those cuties, Susan asks here, tell us more about Moon and Blinken. Where did they come from?
Hi. So Moon and Blinken were transfers from Chicago Animal Control. So we don't know exactly where they came from, but we can pretty safely assume it was outside. Seems pretty likely. Most kittens that are in animal control are from outside. So they came to us about 3 weeks ago, so they would have been about 5 weeks old. So old enough to not need to be bottle fed. They would be eating on their own, eating lots of good wet food, and maybe learning what dry food is all about. And they've been in one of our wonderful foster homes, hanging out, growing big and strong, learning how to be little cats, learning how to play, learning how to bite the toys and not the fingers, looking at you, Moon, and waiting until they are 2 pounds. 2 pounds is the minimum for spay-neuter surgery. That's the required weight for the anesthesia. And so, yeah. So these babies are at least 2 pounds, and that's why they were eligible for surgery today. And they will go back out to a foster home this afternoon, which is why we're sneaking this kind of drowsy time with them. And they will be available for adoption from their foster home because we're doing predominantly virtual adoptions right now. I think their other 2 siblings are a little less social, like socialization we were talking about, but they're still young, so they're going to go to a foster who's experienced with helping kitties learn to trust humans, who will work with them for another couple of weeks and see if we can help them feel a little more comfortable. When we went downstairs to see if they wanted to join us, they politely declined. They said, "We're not up for a live stream. We are not sure you're not trying to eat us. Come back in a couple of weeks." And we said, "Okay, you have fun in your foster home, and we're going to steal your siblings for a little bit." Hi. What do you think? You're wild. You still got that little fluffy, that kind of baby fluff. Someone earlier was saying, can't remember who was saying, almost like little wool. Yeah, should we make yarn? Wild. So I'm awake and I'm wild.
Wild, yes. And on the topic of wild things, it looks like John is curious to know how he can get his cat to become friends with his turtle.
With his turtle? That's what you said, right? Oh,
his
yes.
Turtle, yes.
Okay.
He thinks he has a pet turtle.
I gotta say, that's a little outside of my experience.
You don't have any experience with cats and turtles?
I don't. I'm trying to think if I've heard of them. I've heard about folks who've had success with their cats and birds in particular situations. I'm not sure. I'm not and it's also depends what friends means.
Yeah.
Because we kind of decide like, oh, they like each other, oh, they don't like each other. And sometimes it's pretty clear if they do or not. If friends means like coexisting without like an attack situation, those would be all my questions. I also don't know a lot about turtles. I'm thinking the hard shell could be a protection from cat claws to some extent, but then there are the soft bits.
Right. So we're not really sure about this situation, John.
Turtle experts.
Yes, you might want to consult a turtle expert.
Yeah.
But Alana says that Moon is adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we get one more shot of Moon? She's
come here.
Ready to say hi.
Hi, go here. Oh my god. All right, you watch that one. All right, I'll hold you against my chest because then you have less ability to move around. Hi. You're like, oh. I'm wild. I'm wild. Oh yeah, you're wild, but you're cute. Hmm? Oh, you doing a smize? Hi.
A smize.
A smize.
Alrighty. Well, if we don't have any more questions, thank you to Moon and Blinken and of course Caroline for talking to us today about community cats in general and also just
the weest among us.
Yeah. Community cats in general and what you can do to help kittens if you find them outdoors. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to comment on this video and we will follow up with you directly. Other than that, keep an eye on our website for information on updates to our programs and events. And if you have any community cats related questions, you can always give us a call, 773-262-4000, or email us at info@treehouseanimals.org.
Yep, be happy to help. Thanks.
And thanks so much.
Bye. Say bye. Oh, you're gonna eat that mouse.